Line's good.
Never on.
Whoa.
Hard. Hardly.
Come on, Brent. Line's good. Got real close.
The hair high, right?
Try and hit 2/3.
Have they saved it for her? Yes, they have.
Welcome to Game of Stones, everybody. I am Sean Graham. Scott is on site at the Leon Center in Kingston, Ontario. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Sean. I am here watching the players get ready for evening practice.
Yeah, so who's out there tonight?
Right now, Team Nunavut is out there, and that's the only ones right now.
Okay.
Oh, I lied. There's some Team New Brunswick folks on sheet D.
Okay. And New Brunswick, of course, has that cool setup where they have some phones or whatever it is they do on tripods. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
To see New Brunswick. Of course, they're still in the running. Scott, you were there all day today, and as you put it last night, I spent the day convalescing here in the nation's capital. Doing a little better today than I was yesterday. I was able to sit up for, about 45 minutes at a time today, which is a little better than I could do yesterday.
Well, yeah, that's good, Sean. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
You don't have COVID-19, do you?
No, I do not. I'm not sure what I have. I don't feel nauseous. I haven't been sick to my stomach or anything. It's just sort of chills. But I'm like sweating and I have the chills. It's weird, but it's a. If this is going to happen to you, which I hope it doesn't happen to people, but of course it does, these sort of flu symptoms go around this time of year. This is, I guess, a good week to have it happen.
Yeah, you got curling on TV all day, so why not, right?
Yeah, so let's start with what we just saw here. The night game, or the feature game that we started with, let's not talk about that right now. Let's start about with what we literally just saw, is Matt Dunstone and Saskatchewan beating Kevin Cooey and Team Canada. And I do not want to sound like I'm taking anything away from Matt Dunstone and his team. But they have gotten so many misses late in games from other team skips that it's really quite remarkable. And it's not, I don't think in some of these cases it's a matter of them really putting teams in super difficult spots, right? Kevin Cooey missing a blank attempt is crazy. That doesn't happen. John Epping missed the draw in the 10th end this afternoon by 30 feet.
Yeah.
Like that. And Jim Cotter missed his last two when they had the big comeback. They have really been the beneficiaries of some good breaks. Now, Matt Dunstone did not miss a shot today.
Yeah, that's right.
He threw two perfect games. So you don't take you take the conditions that you have. You win the games that are in front of you. My question though, Scott, is you're there in person. Do you think that what they're doing is sustainable moving into the championship pool, which they have now booked their place into?
Yeah, well, Sean, when Matt Dunstone curls 100%, it's doable. I mean, you do need to get some help from your own team. You have to play well, and against a team like Kevin Cooey, he threw 93% tonight. It's not like he threw a bad game. He had a bad miss when he couldn't afford it. Right. So, and then even at that, Saskatchewan, they played a good 10th end, but that said, they still need to make the draw when it counts, and he made it. So there you go.
Yeah, that's true. And he made the shot, and that's all he can do. This afternoon, though, what was going on with John Epping? And first that draw to win the game. What was there any sort of Lang kicked it well before it got to the hog line.
Yeah, it's been sort of happening since yesterday. So they had the whole day off yesterday until last night. I believe John Epping was in the 30s at a certain point last night in his percentage. He had no feel for draw weight. It has been humid here the last couple days with rain and stuff happening. So the speed was a lot different. That said, it didn't seem to bother the other skips as much. Everyone I've talked to has sort of said, yeah, it was a little bit frosty tonight, but the speed's still pretty good. It's just John seems to not be confident in the speed, and he's not figuring it out.
Right. So, they have all day off tomorrow, right? They play Jamie Cooey, Northwest Territories tomorrow night in a game that they obviously need to win in order to have a chance to move forward. Mm-hmm. They're really in the running right now with James Grattan and his team, who play the Territories in the morning, and then they play Wild Card tomorrow night. And Team Ontario is going to need them to lose one of those games to have a chance to make it into a tiebreak. So, they're really behind the 8 ball now to just even get into the championship pool, let alone get into the playoffs at the end of the week.
Yeah. As we've talked about, 3 losses basically you have to win out. So they're behind it. They know it, and I expect them to come out strong tomorrow afternoon.
All right. So another team that came out that has 3 losses, but a very different way of getting there. I want to talk about what you're seeing there, Scott, from Brad Jacobs in Northern Ontario. 2 very much needed wins today over Quebec and Nova Scotia, 2 teams that, frankly, they should beat. Tomorrow they play Nunavut, and if they don't win that, then Nunavut should petition Curling Canada to have the national championship be only Northern Ontario and Nunavut, and then they'd win the national championship.
With the women's team beating Krista McCarville, yeah.
Yeah. So, but you would expect them to win. You expect them to be 4-3. The way that pool's shaping up, that should get them something moving forward. And it's a team, Scott, that the losses that they've had, with the exception to Alberta, but even that, Brendan Botcher was just out of his head that game, right? The crazy measure loss to Gunlickson, that crazy game last night against Brad Gushu. I mean, they've been super close. They're not a typical 3-3 team, and they're a team that, we haven't seen anybody go into the championship pool with 3 losses and come out into a playoff spot since the format started. But these guys are certainly good enough to run the table. And if they're getting their momentum, getting that confidence back, it's going to be scary.
Yeah, that's one of the things about this team, right? Is most of the time the 4-3 teams that come out of the pool play are sort of those borderline teams, like BC that we saw with the women, somebody like in Ontario on the women's side a couple of years ago come through. They're not what we could think of as contenders for the championship. This team is different. I actually had a chance, Sean, to talk to Rick Lang this afternoon about the team and about what they're looking for.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, as somebody who's known these guys a long time, we've seen Team Jacobs face some adversity in the last couple of years and not be able to respond perhaps as well as they'd like. What makes this team different this year?
Well, that was a goal of ours, to be resilient right from the beginning of the year, and I agree with you. I think their own self-assessment was they're great front runners, but then, winning the big ones and coming from behind. So resilience was something that they wanted to work on all year, and they've come back a lot this year. If you look at their scorecards, they've also lost the first game of slams and then run the table. So it's something they wanted to be part of their identity. Mark helps a lot with that. He's a pretty calm, cool guy, and they're doing a lot of things to kind of talk things through before and after games. Good habits.
Good habits. Right on. And your first chance to watch this Quebec team close up. I wondered if you had any thoughts on them and sort of where they stand looking into the future.
Yeah, well, it's kind of neat. Fun young team. I said the coach at the end, it's a really good-looking young team you got there. Just gain a little more experience and keep training them. He says they don't play a lot. I said, well, that's Steve McCarville doesn't play a lot either, and they just train hard. And I think you can, be really good and get really good at this game doing that.
Do you see any similarities between them and a young Jacobs team?
Oh, absolutely. I remember, when these guys were 20, 21, 22, they're a little calmer than Jacobs was at that age. I remember them throwing a lot of brooms. They were pretty fired up guys, but they throw it well, and you could tell just tonight we had a lot of curl, and they were just a little bit soft on their releases, and that you get used to that on arena ice. So the more they get to play in this kind of setting, the better they'll be.
Right on. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
All right, so a good message there, I think, Scott, from Rick Lang, just about the perspective and keeping positive. It's a long week, right? And certainly Rick Lang's been around long enough to know what this team needs to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you heard Rick talk about there, he gave some praise to Team Quebec, who Northern Ontario was able to beat this afternoon, and they're a really good young team, and I think they're a team to look out for going forward. Only one win so far, but they've got all the skills. It's just about bringing everything together.
Yeah, absolutely. We've certainly been impressed by them. But yeah, with the only one win, they're of course eliminated from championship pool play. Elsewhere around the rinks tonight, tough day for Jamie Murphy, which of course makes me sad. He loses 2 games to Northern Ontario and to Alberta this afternoon. It was a tough break, but those are 2 teams that frankly he is going to need them to miss a lot, and that was not going on this afternoon. That Alberta game was the TV game, and or at least for a while, and then they were just off. Right, they were rolling out a lot. They a lot of quarter shots, a lot of half shots. And you might be able to get away with that against some teams in this field. Not many, but you certainly can't get away with that against Alberta. And the final score was 6-2, but it certainly wasn't that close.
No, it felt like more for sure. So yeah, tough day for Jamie Murphy. He's got Manitoba tomorrow. If he can eke out a win there against Jason Gunlickson, he'll be in a position to be in a tiebreaker, more likely than not. So, it's possible. I'm gonna say that nothing's impossible when it comes to Jamie Murphy. That's how you feel, I'm sure.
That's how I feel for sure.
And it'd be nice to see a tiebreaker Thursday morning. Some free curling here.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. So you mentioned he plays Manitoba. Let's talk about Manitoba, Scott, and what Jason Gunlickson did today. 1 game today. It was this morning against Brian Cochran and his team. And Jason Gunlickson makes a double run to win, to score 3. He's down 2 in the 10th. And I don't know, Scott. This was a case when I was watching it, and Brian Cochran plays his last one. He's playing a freeze, and they're not really sweeping it. And it comes, 6-8 inches short of the freeze. And Brian Cochran says something like, why aren't they sweeping? Why didn't they sweep that? And I thought the same thing, because I thought it opened the door to a 3. Not the way Gunlickson made it, mind you, but it great shot. Like, don't get me wrong. But let's start with the PEI side of it. I feel as though that was a pretty big miss, and a miss in line call or weight judgment, whatever you want to call it, from that. That's a mistake that I would expect, with all due respect, Quebec to make. An inexperienced team who's not as familiar with the necessities of rock management and rock positioning.
Yeah, to me it looked like it was a team that's maybe not that experienced on this kind of ice. It was dying once it got to the slide path. It was gliding pretty good, and then, like you say, it just in the forefoot there, it really stopped and felt like the sweepers weren't expecting it to stop like the way it did. Tough, it's a tough way to lose, absolutely. Of course, that swings the standings, right? Prince Edward Island drops to the 3 losses, and Manitoba stays afloat with only 2. So, and it was a game that PEI basically controlled the whole game, right? Gunlickson was frustrated. He was,
he couldn't make a draw all day.
No, and he shot 65% in total, and I think his draw percentage was below 50.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a really tough loss for the Islanders there, but they got the whole day to, forget about it. Maybe go get a massage, sit in the hot tub, who knows, right? Get ready for their 2-game day tomorrow, where they're gonna have to win both of them.
Yeah, and they're playing Newfoundland and Labrador and Alberta, so a bit of a buzzsaw there. They really needed that one, I think, this morning against Manitoba, and Gunner gets Nunavut in the morning before the aforementioned game against Jamie Murphy tomorrow night.
What did you think of the celebration, Sean?
That was we were on the media bench when he made the shot against Quebec the other day. I think it was Price Atkinson said that he'd never seen that much emotion out of Jason Gunlickson, and it's true. He's a guy who he's a running dialogue, but it's not a very emotional dialogue out there. I mean, it was intense. I like, it was loud. It was like when they showed the replay. I mean, he jumped like 12 times as high as Cooey did when he won the Olympic berth.
Not hard.
Yeah, that means he jumped 12 inches in the air. But I was a little surprised to see it. I mean, it's a great shot. It was fun. I was there for it. I was surprised. I was almost a little taken aback. I think Mudryk and Kathy were too. They're like, this guy doesn't do that. Like, so it was kind of fun.
Yeah. It seemed to me like it was an outpouring of pure joy. That it was nothing against like trying to rub it in the opponent's face. It was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I did this. This is what curling is, right? It should be the joyous moment when they managed to win.
I think it was partly relief too, because he had struggled so much personally during the game.
Yeah, you're 100% right there. He was definitely relieved to get that. So
you could tell there was a great moment in the game that you could tell how frustrated he was getting. There was a shot, it was late in the game, 8th, 9th end, and Connor Negevin is the inside sweeper, and he's pounding the rock the whole way. He's going hard, and Jason Gunnarsson just yells, "You gotta sweep it, Connor!" I'm like, what's like, he's doing the best he can. Stop. So you could tell he was a little wrapped up.
He gave him a big hug right after, right? So
he did.
He thanked him appropriately.
So that was not the only great finish we had today. The other one, of course, this afternoon, Kevin Cooey in the game against Mike McEwen, down 2-1 playing the 10th end, and he makes a very thin triple to crack a deuce and win the game. Now, Scott, you were in the building for it. Russ saw it right away on the broadcast. What was the vibe in the building? Was there a buzz?
There was a bit of a buzz. I also saw it right away, but I wasn't sure he'd play it. I thought that he might have to try and stick the shooter based on the angles from where I saw. I sort of thought the back one would jam. But, the thing is, Cooey has like a minute left on his clock. No timeouts. He sort of looks at it and goes, all right, let's do it. And just, no big deal. Make a triple for 2 and win the game. It was one of the most Kevin Cooey moments, you know?
Yeah.
So he ended the game with 18 seconds on his clock. Wild card had 29. Overall, though, Sean, this game was like pretty boring until McEwen gets forced in 9, and then it's sort of game on for Kevin Cooey in that 10th end.
Yeah, but what was interesting though to me, because it wasn't a TV game the whole time, but when they went over and they were like, "Hey, they're short on time," and it's a 1-1 game, like
why?
How is this happening? Like, even if there's a lot of rocks in play early and ends, by the time you get to the end, if there's blanks, things have been cleared out and you can at least bank, 2 or 3 shots. So I was a little confused on that. But, it was interesting. You mentioned that you weren't sure if you would have taken that or made that play on the shot. And you mentioned that you thought he might not take it on. Actually, Russ said something or Vic said something about that, would he not just draw and try to steal? And Russ was like, well, that's in the old times, that's what we would do. But, now they want to win it in the moment. And part of that, I think, is analytics and understanding how hard it is to steal. Kevin Cooey, he gets that win, then falls tonight, as we talked about. Anything else? Who else did you get to talk to today, Scott?
Well, Sean, after the game tonight in which Team Wildcard wrapped up a playoff berth with their big win against Team Ontario, I talked to Reid Carruthers about looking forward and how their team's been able to succeed so far this week.
Questions for you about the day, first of all.
Sounds good.
Pretty good day for you guys. Got beat on a Cooey. Can't do much about that.
Yeah.
And played really well.
Yeah.
I wondered, with all the games being afternoon, evening session from now on, how do you guys prep for those kind of days?
Yeah, it's
I guess like when you play a game like we had earlier versus Cooey, it went to full 10 ends, and it was one of those ones where you needed even 5-10 minutes on the ice afterwards to digest what just happened, and kind of cool down, because it was such a barn burner. And then you got a tight turnaround, and all of a sudden you're playing like the number 1 or 2 ranked team in the world. So this Brier field is absolutely incredible. So for us, moving forward, the draw schedule is going to be like that. I think we've clinched championship round now, which is huge. So we're going to be in that 2-7 draw. So for us, we're going to have to make sure we plan ahead, plan that we even play extra end. So we might have to just get some food and stick it in a fridge somewhere, because there's not a whole lot of time to debrief after a game and get ready for the next game.
Yeah, for sure. Noticed your team has been really good with communication at this Brier. Is that a point that you've been working on?
Yeah, I think we've done a really good job of that. The provincials, we had some shots that we messed up because it was getting a little chaotic, and we got more going on, more noise here, and I think our communication is even cleaner. So I think it's from our practice and the prep that we put in, that was really good, and also we're a lot more confident with how each other are throwing it. We spent a lot of time working on line of delivery to sync up, so that there wasn't any goofy throws coming at skipper.
Right on. And a lot of confidence in Mike calling the game.
Yeah, no, he's been calling a really good game. There's maybe 1 or 2 shots a game where we have a team discussion, but there's always different ways of playing the game. But he's one of those guys that always thinks 1, 2, even 3 shots ahead. So there's always a method to some of the madness, and my job is just to try to get him in the zone, and he's in there right now.
Right on. And real quick, what was going on there on the ice before the game?
There was a looked like a scraper blade scratch, almost like a bit of a crevice. Oh, okay. It was only about 1.5 feet long, but maybe a centimeter wide, so you could feel it with your slider as you're going over it. So we had the ice makers come over and the official, just to make sure that we didn't think it would affect the actual stones going over that path. And after playing on the sheet, I don't think it had any real effect on it.
Right on. Good luck in the championship pool.
Thanks a lot.
All right,
nice meeting you, buddy.
Okay, so some interesting comments there from Reid Carruthers. I've talked about it earlier in the week, or we both have. We've been impressed with him both. Obviously, on the ice, has played really well. But just in terms of the team dynamic and the role that he's had, really being the leader on that team and the voice of reason, and separating the front end and their energy from Mike McEwen, I think it's been really effective. And obviously the results are there.
Yeah, absolutely. They're no doubt playing really, really well. And when you get cooeyed for your only loss, nothing to hang your head about for sure.
No, so they are into the championship pool. They certainly an improvement over last year for them. So all credit to them.
Just looking forward to tomorrow, Sean. Do any games stand out for you there? Obviously, the ones we've spoken about that have playoff implications will be the important ones.
Yeah.
I am not going to be on site tomorrow, Sean. I'm taking a field trip.
Yeah.
Down to Toronto to watch Hamilton with our mother.
Yes. So that'll be very exciting for you. So I will be on TV duty during the day. Again, this is assuming that I can, sit up.
Yeah, you'll be on the Twitter, and I've been pretty active on there lately. So
yeah, you're doing a good job, buddy.
Oh, thanks, man. I just try to think, what would Sean type?
So tomorrow morning, the TV game's going to be PEI, Newfoundland, and Labrador. Otherwise, Grattan against Jamie Cooey, that'd be fun just to have the mics on. But in terms of playoff implications, not really much, unless Nunavut can pull off an upset against Manitoba there. Tomorrow afternoon, again, sort of some mismatches here. I'm guessing the TV game will be Nova Scotia, Manitoba. I don't know if they've announced that yet. But that'll be a big one for Jamie Murphy, trying to bring Gunlickson back to 3 losses, create a tie there. And then tomorrow night, if you're looking at any sort of premier matchup for the day, I think you're going to be looking for a while. It'll probably be Grattan against Mike McEwen. So it's just the way it breaks. There's no way to know this at the start of the week, but you know, a lot of matchups tomorrow are either teams that are already out of it playing each other or pretty big mismatches. So we do have the potential for an exciting upset or two, but we don't have the marquee matchups that we've had so far this week.
No, maybe not so far, but you know, I'll be in the building hopefully by the end of the evening draw, hopefully like halfway through. I'll be able to get back and you know, ask some questions of the players and you know, see how the day unfolds and what the championship pools are going to look like at the end of the day.
Good stuff as we look forward to the championship pool, and no shortage of marquee matchups once we get there, Scott.
No, that'll be all sorts of marquee matchups, so I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be some great curling. We've already seen a ton of great curling here so far this week in Kingston, and you know, no sign that it's going to stop anytime soon.
No, we've definitely gotten our money's worth there at the 2020 Tim Hortons Brier. So at least from the nation's capital, Scott, I think we've wrapped it up.
Yeah, I think that's everything for now.
Beautiful.
We will you know, have our eyes on the screens tomorrow and be back with you tomorrow evening. Hopefully Sean will, you know, be upright and the tweeting won't take too much out of him.
I hope not.
I hope you're able
sending
to
a text. Like, I've slowly gotten more energy through the day. This morning when I had to send a text, that really took it out of me.
Yeah,
so,
I noticed you didn't answer mine until later tonight. So
it took a while. So you know, but you know, I've created a nice little cocoon for myself. I can't see the TV from my bed, so I've created a little mini bed cocoon thing in my living room. So it's worked out as well as one could expect.
Well, onward and upward, Sean.
Yeah. So enjoy the show. Safe travels tomorrow, Scott.
Thanks, eh?
And we'll be back with you tomorrow night. As always, do follow along at Game of Stones Pod on Instagram and Twitter for all the fun and frivolity from Kingston. And do subscribe to the show if you have not yet, as we're doing these daily episodes through the event, wherever it is you get your show, including Spotify. Give the likes, ratings, all that good stuff. And if you have any questions that you want Scott to ask any of the players, send us an email at gameofstonespodcast@gmail.com or through social media, and Scott can do his best.
Yes, I'll do my best. I'm not great at asking questions, but I'm getting there.
So Scott, head over to the patch, head across the street, have a drink, or go back to the hotel, get some sleep for your journey tomorrow.
Right on. I will likely go for a beer, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. Everybody, have a great night out there. Have a good Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow night, but until then, keep your brooms on the ice and don't dump that intern.
Make the final.